This is Chapter 8 of The Packet in Portland, written by Alexi Hart. Foster Road looked different at dusk. The traffic thinned, the sky flattened into gray, and the storefronts along the corridor glowed with a tired kind of insistence. Nora parked half a block from the corner store and walked the rest, letting her pace match the neighborhood's. The store was small, fluorescent lit, with a hand-painted sign advertising lottery tickets and hot coffee. A narrow window in the door held a sticker that claimed the premises were under video surveillance. Nora noted the sticker's peeling edges and the camera above the register, angled slightly too high to catch faces clearly. A story, not a system, she thought. Inside, the air smelled like burnt coffee and detergent. 2 customers stood at the counter, one buying cigarettes, one arguing about the price of a scratch-off. A teenage clerk with a nose ring watched them with bored patience. Nora moved to the cooler aisle and pretended to consider bottled water. She didn't want to be the first variable in the room. She wanted to see what the room did without her. A man in a hooded sweatshirt entered, glanced at the clerk, and nodded. The clerk nodded back. A signal, casual enough to be deniable. Nora waited. The argument at the counter ended. The customers left. The clerk leaned forward, tapping something into the register, then looked up and met Nora's eyes. Not curious. Assessing. Nora took a bottle of water from the shelf, walked to the counter, and set it down. She placed a $5 bill beside it. The clerk rang it up, then said too casually, "Anything else?" Nora kept her voice even. "I'm here for the packet." The clerk's eyes flicked to the door, then to the camera, then back to Nora. "We don't have packets." Nora didn't argue. She lifted the witness's key fob from her coat pocket and set it on the counter, tape edge facing up. The clerk's posture changed. The board mask slipped, replaced by alertness. He didn't touch the fob. He looked at it as if it confirmed something he'd been told to watch for. "Hold up," he said. He stepped away from the register and disappeared into the back. Nora waited, hands resting lightly on the counter. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't scan the room like a rookie. The quickest way to look guilty was to behave like you expected danger. A minute passed. 2 minutes. Nora heard a door open, a low murmur. Then the clerk returned with a small, padded envelope. He set it down beside the water without meeting her eyes. "Take it and go," he muttered. Nora didn't move immediately. "Who told you to hold this?" The clerk's jaw tightened. "I don't know." Nora watched his hands. The left thumb rubbed at a chipped nail. Stress, but not terror. More like annoyance at being involved in something he didn't control. "You do know," Nora said quietly. "You just don't want to say it in front of the camera." His eyes flashed. "You got what you came for." Nora nodded once and slid the envelope toward herself. "Thank you." She picked up the water and left, not rushing. Outside, she walked a full block before she opened the envelope. She stood beneath the streetlight, rain misting the air, and put on gloves before breaking the seal. Inside were 2 documents and 1 object. The first was a photocopy of a transit schedule, highlighted in yellow at irregular intervals. The second was a handwritten note on cheap paper. The object was a small, plain flash drive. Nora read the note first. "You want the witness. You don't get the witness. You get the truth. The truth lives in the gaps. Don't bring the attorney. Don't bring the reporter. If you tell either one, the witness gets moved again." Below that, a second line. The fob opens the storage unit. Number 118. Foster Mini Storage. Tonight. Nora's attention sharpened. Storage units were easy. They were private, rented under names that could be fake, secured with locks that could be replaced. They were also predictable in one way. Someone had to access them physically. Tonight, the note said. A deadline meant pressure. Pressure meant mistakes. Nora slipped the flash drive back into the envelope and started walking toward her car. Her phone buzzed as if the city had been waiting for her to move. Lane izquierdo. Nora let it ring twice, then answered. Lane, she said. His voice came through fast, controlled, too awake. You're at Foster Road. Nora didn't ask how he knew. No. A pause. Then he laughed once, a quiet sound. You're not going to lie well to me. You're going to lie efficiently. Nora's eyes stayed on the street ahead. Why are you calling? I got a tip, Lane said. About you. About the witness. About a corner store. Nora's grip tightened slightly on her phone. From who? Lane hesitated, just long enough to register as a choice. From someone who doesn't want the witness dead. Nora didn't like that phrasing. It implied death as a reasonable default. You're not coming. I'm not, he said quickly. I'm staying away. You asked, I'm doing it. Nora paused. That was either restraint or strategy. She turned the corner and reached her car. She opened the door, slid inside, and shut it, letting the quiet seal around her. Lane continued, softer now. What did you get? Nora didn't answer. Lane exhaled, as if he expected that. Okay, fine. Let me offer something else. Your attorney is panicking. He's on the phone with his PR person. They're trying to get ahead of the story. I told him no media, Nora said. He doesn't hear no, Lane replied. He hears later. Nora stared through the windshield at the slick street. And you. Lane's voice changed, almost imperceptibly. I hear no. I just don't like it. Nora didn't give him the satisfaction of responding. Lane tried again. If you found something, and if someone is manipulating the witness, you need to assume they're manipulating the record too. Phones, logs, access, everything. Nora's mind returned to the staged apartment, the oiled hinges, the clean doormat. I already assumed that. Then don't go alone, Lane said. Nora's expression stayed neutral. I always go alone. A beat. Then Lane said, That's not a virtue. Nora looked down at the padded envelope on the passenger seat. The note had been written for her, and only for her. It promised consequences if she shared. The consequence was movement. She believed it. Lane's voice held steady, but there was something in it now that sounded less like a journalist and more like a person who understood the cost of being watched. Where are you going? He asked. Nora kept her voice even. Home. Lane laughed softly again, not mocking. Sure. Nora ended the call and set her phone down. She drove to Foster Mini Storage by taking the long route, a habit she'd learned years ago. Not paranoia, pattern disruption. If someone tracked her, she wanted them to work for it. The storage facility sat beside a stretch of industrial buildings, chain-link fencing topped with angled wire. A keypad gate guarded the entrance. The office was closed, its windows dark. A security light cast pale cones over the rows of metal doors. Nora parked across the street first and watched. No cars inside. No movement. No sound except distant traffic and the thin hiss of rain. She waited 2 minutes anyway. Then she crossed, entered through the pedestrian gate, and moved along the rows until she found 118. The unit door was closed. A standard padlock hung from the latch. Nora took out the key fob and held it near the small reader on the side panel, just as the note had implied. Nothing happened. Nora tried again, angling the fob closer. A small green light blinked. The latch clicked. No lock. The padlock was a decoy. Nora felt a quiet flare of irritation. Someone had wanted her to think in one direction, then corrected her into another. That was a control move, a test. She didn't open the unit immediately. She put on gloves and crouched, examining the latch and door seam. No fresh scratches, no obvious tripwire. But the floor in front of the unit had been swept recently, the concrete clean in a rectangle that didn't match the surrounding grime. Someone had been here. Recently. Nora stood and slid the door up just enough to see inside. The unit held a metal shelving rack, a few sealed plastic tubs, and a folding chair. A single desk lamp sat on a small table, unplugged. The air smelled like dust and fabric softener. Staging again. Nora stepped inside and let the door remain partially open behind her, just enough to keep a clear exit. On the folding chair sat a manila envelope with a label printer tag. Atlas desk. Nora's eyes narrowed. Someone was using her language now. She crossed the unit and lifted the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small zip bag. The paper held two things: a transit ID badge photo of the witness and a printed list of incidents with dates, times, and brief descriptions. The zip bag contained a SIM card. Nora stared at the SIM card longer than she meant to. A SIM card meant a second phone, a burner, a way to control communications, a way to create a witness and a narrative. She scanned the incidents list. Falsified log entries, missing footage, a supervisor's name repeated across multiple dates. The pattern was clear, too clear, like someone wanted her to see a villain quickly. Nora didn't trust clear villains. She looked again at the envelope label. Atlas desk. Someone had printed it. Someone had access to label software. That wasn't hard. But the choice of words mattered. They wanted Nora to feel like this was part of her system. It wasn't. Nora put the SIM card back in the bag and slid the documents into her own folder without leaving fingerprints. Then she stepped back and studied the unit. The plastic tubs were sealed, but not with factory tape, with clear packing tape, layered. The lamp had no bulb. The desk had no scratches. It was a room built to deliver objects, not to store them. A drop point. Nora heard a sound outside. Not footsteps. A car door closing, distant but sharp. Nora went still. She didn't reach for a weapon. She reached for information. She moved to the unit opening and looked out, keeping her head low. A vehicle idled near the entrance gate, headlights off. Two silhouettes inside. Watching. Nora's pulse remained steady, but her focus narrowed. This wasn't random. This wasn't a late-night tenant. Someone had followed the note's instruction, or they had anticipated it. Nora backed into the unit, slid the door down slowly until it was mostly closed, leaving a narrow gap for sight and air. She pulled out her phone and opened the Atlas desk secure line. She didn't call the attorney. She didn't call Lane. She sent one message. I am at Foster Mini Storage. I am being watched. If you have a trace-capable contact that is not client-side and not media-side, route it now. Do not disclose my location to anyone. She hit send and waited. The car outside remained still, engine low. Nora's mind ran through options. Leave now, and you confirm to them that you noticed. Stay, and you give them time to decide what they want. Call the police, and you create a record that drags the witness's case into public view. Call Lane, and you bring a story to a knife fight. Nora didn't choose any of those. Instead, she chose something simpler. She waited for the watcher to make the first move, because people who wanted control always did.